Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our SQL MariaDB tutorials, and we're continuing looking at where clauses. Now, last time around, we looked at sort of some basic ones. We did get into ands and ors, but now I want to play around a little differently with this one and get a little more complex. So we were working with this horses table. And let's say, let's do select distinct weight from horses. So we've got a whole bunch. So looks like, let's do this. So now what we want to do is, I don't want to do this. I want to do this. Let's do this first. So now what we can do is we can do like our normal select star from horses, where let's say weight is less than 100. So we're going to start with that simple where clause. So there, we've got this nice complicated result set. Now what we can do, we can simplify it, and we're going to say, now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those IDs, and so now you're going to get this. Now this is sort of a manufactured example, but that's okay. So now I'm going to do this, and what I can do is in my where clause is I can say select star from horses where let's see, what else do we want? Let's pick another field just because. Let's do our ages. Okay, so let's put their age greater than 10. Okay, so we could do where age is greater than 10. And we're going to get a whole bunch of rows back, I'm sure, if we do that. So if we do that, there, we got 1,000. But what we can also do, now we could just do, which is what we're normally going to do. So this is a little manufactured, but normally what we could do is we could say where age is greater than 10 and weight is less than 100. And then we're set to go. Got 1,241 rows. But let's say that it wasn't, those are like maybe it's a field in another table or something like that. Or we had to double join it. So what we could also do is we could say, let's just keep that one there. And instead, we're going to come down here and we're going to say, and ID in. This is, like I said, it's a little backwards way to do it. You would not normally do this, but you would if this inner select, or if this select here was off of another table, quite possibly. So now if I do that, and that took 0.433 seconds. Let's see what it takes to do this. A little longer because it's doing some funky stuff, but we still got the same number of rows back. And so when you looked at tables, did we have one? So like we have owners. So we can take our owners table. Let's describe that. So we have an owner ID and a sire. And then we have, in horses, I think it's called an owner ID. Yep, an owner ID. So we could do select star from owner where owner ID in. So let's get all the owners of horses. This is not necessarily the only way you could do it, but we could come in here and say, let's go. Oh, that's right. So now we're going to select owner ID from horses where weight is less than 100, and we're going to get the owner information from them. It's owners. My mistake. Semicolon. And now we're getting the owner information based on whether they have a horse where the weight is less than 100. So we can actually put some pretty complicated stuff into our where clause. We can actually sort of combine. Now, you probably, for the most part, do not want to do that. You want to use inner joins, but there are times where it makes sense to have a select in the where clause. Sometimes it's actually, and I think we've actually looked at this a little bit before. So there's a couple ways to break this down, and this is really getting a little bit into performance tuning and stuff, but that's okay. Now, what we would do is select star from, well, let's say call owners O. So what we really want is we want to select O. That's not, it's a 0, no. O dot star from owners, inner join horses on. Let's make that horses.h on h dot owner ID equals O dot ID. And we can actually do it here, and we can say and h dot weight less than 100. And now we don't even have a where clause at all. And we should get 356 rows back. Whoops. O dot ID. Inner join horses H on it's owner ID. I'm sorry. It's not ID. It is owner ID. So if we do that, boom, then we get our 356 rows back. So now we're doing it with an inner join. Another way we can do this is we can say, let's do the O from owners again. And we can actually we can take this select. Let's do it like this. And we're going to call it OQ for the owner's query on OQ dot owner ID equals O dot owner ID. Oops, I should spell it right. Let me put some semicolons here to save you people if you're looking at these in the notes. And so now I get the same thing. Now, I don't know if this went faster. That was 0.13. This is 0.08. So it actually went faster this way, which is interesting because actually what it did is it builds this first. It goes to that inner piece. It's going to build it first. And so it's got a much smaller amount to join to than here, where it's the entire horses table. And it's substantially different because now this is joining to the horse table and then comes in and handles that. You could also do this, and I can say where weight is less than 100, where... If I do that, let's see how fast that comes back. That's 0.103, so that's even not as fast as the other one was. So you've got a couple of different ways you can move around stuff between inner selects or inner joins and selects, and putting those selects into your where clause. Now, for example, one of the things we might want to do is, let's say, select star. What we want to do is, let's say we want to get all of the horses where age equals minimum age. Now, if you try to do that, because you want it to be the minimum, right? So I'm going to say, I just want to get everybody where it's the minimum age in the table. Well, it's not going to like that because you have to have a group by. And we've talked a little bit about those. So what you really want to do is you need to say select minimum age from horses. So if I do that, and let's say as age, so I can just do that. Or I can do select, let's say, yeah, that's probably going to want to do. I'm trying to think a little bit how I want to do that. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do that. I'm sorry, I'm thinking a little bit on the fly. So now what I can do, and this would be a case where I'd want to do it, is I can say select age, comma, weight. From horses where age equals. And so now, or actually it probably should be age in, I guess it doesn't really matter. If I do that, now I'm going to see all of these guys with their age and weight. So that -1. So let's say max. And so here's a little more typical kind of example, is that what I'm trying to do is get a grouping together. Yeah, there's most of them. There. Now that's only one. And so he doesn't weigh anything, even though his age is 16. So in this case, I'm doing some of my my maxes, my groupings, and things like that in that select, and then using that as part of the where clause. And particularly if you're using mins and max, that doesn't really, it's really not going to make sense to do the inner join, although it probably could be done. I'm not sure how fast it's going to run, but from a readability point of view, what you're going to see here is that people look at it and they'll say, oh, I'm going to select my values from my table, like this. And then my where clause is, oh, okay, where my age is select max age. And this sometimes is a way to build across, if you're trying to sort of like join across, or not join, but whittle down your results across a lot of different tables. Sometimes it's easier to get that join or that select in the where clause as opposed to, or I guess you can do an inner join with it as well, but use those queries to sort of get yourself to a smaller result set first and then work from there. What you could do, you could do it in like a stored procedure or a function or something like that, but sometimes that doesn't lend itself to that as well. So you want it, maybe you've got it, you're for some reason restricted to a query. So you can do it like this, and you can give yourself sometimes a pretty complex query, but you can include with that some of these, some other selects and some other tables, and you can even get complex with that because you can actually have you can have a full blown. So like if I do o.id, sorry, that's owner ID. So I could take this, and that's going to give me this. I can't remember how many results this gives me back. Okay, that gives me 356 rows back. So what I could actually then turn around and do is say, select star, or let's just do age, comma, weight, comma, breed from horses where owner ID in this big massive thing. Let's do it this way so it's just easier to see. And I'm also going to do, let's say we're age less than 10. And I'm just adding random stuff at this point. But now I've got like this is getting pretty nasty. I've got a pretty gnarly, it's not age, it's age, comma. Because I've got this I'm starting to get a pretty complex thing in my where clause. Not recommended. Sometimes those things are, I don't know if you have to do it, but sometimes you do. So now we've been adjusting this a little bit, but you're going to see all your ages here are going to be over here in this left column are now less than 10. So you can get, like I said, you can get a little interesting with your where clauses. And it's usually a matter of either using the in here, like where owner ID in. But if it's a single number, I can do equals. Like where did I do my match? Yeah, so I can also do from this one. The problem is you got to make sure what your result set is. So if I go where age equals, because I only get one, then this will work. It'll probably come back a little faster than it did. Let's see, 0.341 versus it may have been cached a little bit. So, but you can also get, so you can do equals, but if you try to do equals where you're going to get multiples. So if I said here, well, let me leave that there. I'm going to break it. So now if I say he equals that, or she, I guess it doesn't matter what its gender is, I can come in and it's going to say here that subquery returns more than one row because I'm saying owner ID equals, but this thing, this big ugly thing, returns lots of rows, 356 rows. So if you know you're only going to have one row, then you're okay. If you are going to have some number of rows, or you can okay with equal. If you're going to have a large number of rows, or actually more than one row, then go ahead and make it in. And then the challenge becomes, what if it doesn't exist? So if I take, let me do one, let's go back to a simpler one. So let's do select from owners. So select owner ID from horses where weight is less than -1. So let's look at that first. So we don't get anything back. So now let's see what happens when we try to do the owner ID in. And so we're also going to get nothing back. So in this case, we don't get any rows, but it's because we can't, it's not in there, but we don't get an error or anything like that. It's just going to say, oh, there's nothing left. It's still going to run all this. So technically, you may want to do like in those cases, you're probably better off to do an inner join. And of course, if you start messing around the where clause, then it's sometimes going to be easier to join and then do like an inner or a left join, as opposed to some sort of equals or in your query. I think we've gone far enough into our where clauses this time. And so we'll come back. We'll explore some other fun stuff around these as interesting stories come up and interesting approaches come up to do some of our queries and some of our tuning and things of that nature. But for now, we'll let you get back to it. So go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.